Three, two, one. Welcome to Jim's Take, episode 157. We're talking about the booze again. It's Sober October. This is being released in October of 2025. So, Sober October, thought I'd revisit the story of sobriety. It seems to be a hot topic. I did it once a few years ago. It was in the middle of COVID. Everybody was boozing quite a bit. And it was affecting people. A lot of the people I spoke to were talking about how it was affecting them. They were drinking too much. They were doing all that kind of stuff. And a woman who worked for me is like, you got to tell your story on why you quit drinking. I did it. It resonated. Everybody, they were in a dark place. They kind of were toying with the idea. And now we see this a lot. There's kind of this big sobriety movement. It's been around for a number of years. The Sober October, the Dry January, the sober bars that have opened up with a lot of the non-alcoholic spirits and beer and all of that. Non-alcoholic beer is going through the roof. Athletic Brewing Company, Guinness Zero, Heineken Zero. So there's an interest for a number of different reasons. And since it was such a popular topic, it was 5 years ago that I spoke about it. It was almost 7 years ago where I decided to quit drinking. I thought I'd hit it again and just kind of talk about what the experience has been, why I still have made that decision, what's been easy, what's been hard. And I'll go through, what drove me to it, why I quit drinking, what prevented me from doing it for so long, and I guess what I've learned, what surprised me about quitting drinking. You have these expectations on why or how people are going to react and how things are. And it really didn't hit my expectations in the way that I thought it was going to do, in positive ways, and all positive. But we'll talk about all of that. So I will say this as an overarching comment: everyone's got opinions on drinking. I'm not giving you my opinion on it. I'm giving you my experience on it. Everyone is different. There is no right or wrong. For context, I never went to AA or any of those things. I'm not that hardcore kind of. I've had tastes of booze. My wife orders a drink and I'll take a sip of it. I find it revolting now. I don't like the taste of it. I don't enjoy that kind of thing. I don't sit and drink. When I take a sip, it's literally just, oh, it's that interesting. Okay, fine. But some people are in recovery and they can't do that, and they've sworn that off, and that's their way to do it, and that's great. So there are a lot of different ways that people give up the booze, give up whatever it is they're kicking, the smokes, the drugs, the whatever, and that's your path, and that's fine. Right. And so what worked for me probably won't work for you, but this is not a do not drink episode. I'm not a preacher. I used to love drinking, but I got to the point where it wasn't additive. It wasn't helpful. And it went beyond helpful or not helpful to actually hurting. And so I'll talk through all of that. But if you are thinking about quitting drinking, there's a group of people who have done it in a way that's resonating for you. So good luck finding them. And if you want to chat about it, I'm happy to chat about it. Some people want the steps. Some people just need a community. Some people just need one person, and some people just need to make a commitment. So there's all different paths to that. Fine. Takes an honest conversation with yourself. I'm not here to tell you who you are, but you go do that. That was longer than I expected it to be, but hey, the world takes all kinds of people. Enjoy your life. So why did I quit drinking? Let me set the scene for you about me and some context on a younger Jim. I'm in my late 40s now. I started drinking. I was 18 when I started drinking. I went to college. I never drank before college. I wasn't a big boozer. Before that, partied hard in college. It just kind of wrapped its lovely arms around me. And I was a bartender in college, DJ in college, spent a lot of my time in bars. And that's just kind of where it was, where my friends were and everything else. And so it became very comfortable, very easy. And I drank a lot, but I was a college kid, so it wasn't anything crazy. I was never, that I can remember, so bad. We all got crazy, but it was always like, I always made sure the last person got home, right? I always got home safely. I always kind of did that kind of thing. And after college and working, it's still, it stuck with me, and I drank a lot, and I drank, after work, you drink a bottle of wine or a bottle of whiskey, and you do that kind of thing. You go out on the weekends, you party hard, and, you wake up and you get a little hair of the dog, and you do it again, it was a lot. And there were times when things got stressful, I'd go and I'd pop 2 bottles of wine in a night, um, and do those types of things, bottle of whiskey, whatever. And there was always a time I always knew that I didn't want to drink, but I didn't really have the guts to do it. Um, I mean, I recall in my late 20s even writing an email basically telling people I wanted to quit drinking, but I never sent it. I'm like, oh, I'll send it in the morning. For once in my life, I was like, you know what, I'm going to sleep on this. And it was the one I probably should have sent. But so I never really asked for help, and asking for help is a very difficult thing for me. And I mean, my ayahuasca trip taught me that. Um, and so asking for help is a big, I think that's probably the biggest thing that prevented me from doing it. And so for years I knew I wanted to do it. I couldn't pull the trigger. I couldn't ask for help. And I don't know why. I had people surrounding me that would have been very helpful. But it's more of it was a mental weakness that I had, that I was not able to ask for that kind of help, or do that kind of thing. So it wasn't the people around me that prevented me from doing it. It was me. I couldn't do it. And so part of it was out of a personal weakness. Some of it was part of a personal laziness, I guess. But I think there was a lot that prevented me from quitting. Was probably the two biggest ones. Was one, that prevented me from asking for the help was, one was social pressure and comparing to others. Will I be viewed as weak? And what else are we supposed to do? It's where all my friends were. I was surrounded with people who were boozers. These were my friends. I met them at the bar. This is what we did. The bar became a lifestyle. And when you're in that lifestyle, it's very difficult to imagine anything besides it. Right? And I talked about this in the 2021. Like, you go on a vacation, and you're like, oh, an Irish pub, let's go pop in the pub, right? And I'm in a country like Istanbul, and I'm sitting in a bar, which I could do anywhere, and not enjoying the local culture, but it just becomes part of it. What do you want to do? Oh, let's just go grab a drink. And you don't realize that the majority of the world does not drink, or at least they don't drink as much as I did, or as much as a bunch of us do. And so there's so much to do outside of the bar. We just have to do a little bit of digging around to say what would be interesting in this moment to go do, and what can we explore, what fun things can we do. And it's not about accomplishing stuff and I'm going to go learn a language by giving up the bar, and I'm going to go write a book, but there is so much to experience. And they say stop and smell the roses. It's part of appreciate the things that are around you. And there are so many things around you. And I realize this more with kids, and the kids kind of push me to finally pull in the trigger. But appreciating nature, and appreciating just people around you, people watching in the city, or the amount of free things that go on in Manhattan is bananas. And there's just so much to do, even just a coffee shop, right? There's a lot to do at nighttime that doesn't involve a bar. And so this was kind of, I never thought of it. It probably existed, but I just didn't care enough to do it. So there was a social pressure there, which prevented me from doing it. And then also part of it was identity. If I wasn't a drinker, then who was I? And if you knew me back then, I mean, I used to have the Frawley drinking crew. I used to have a drinking party in a different city around the world every month. And it wasn't about drinking. It was about getting people together. The social component was much more important, but that was how I knew to get social people together, was to get them in a bar. And so if I didn't have the bar, I felt like I had to almost rebuild a persona. And it had to be authentic. I'm not going to be this fake kind of person. So how do I build an authentic, and it wasn't building an authentic one for me. It was a lot of self-discovery, a lot of discomfort, but it was recognizing that my identity was not in the bar. I actually had an identity before it and without it, and almost peeling back onions to discover what my real purpose, and not purpose. I hate that. I'm sorry. I just said that. Not my real purpose. Please scratch that. I hate that saying, but find out who I really was, and what really motivated me, and what my values were. And I didn't realize that at the time. I think as I reflect on it now, that's ultimately the big mountain that I was looking to climb, was I didn't know who I was. And the booze was much more convenient to just kind of say, it doesn't matter, right? This is who I am. And it was accessible and very easy. And the work on self-discovery, and the work on the discomfort of finding your negative behaviors and embracing your negative behaviors, and opening up the insecurities. And we drink to dull the noise, but kind of leaning into that noise and saying, what is it, and what am I telling myself that I'm trying to ignore? And it is hard work, but it's necessary. It was necessary work for me. It was, I mean, I quit drinking, and I was just under 6 months to the day before my 40th birthday when I pulled the trigger. And I was like, I don't want another 40 years of this. And there were a lot of reasons why I finally pulled the trigger. Um, the big one was having a daughter, um, and you just can't be the parent you want to be if you're a drinker the way I was a drinker. Um, and it's very difficult. And it's when you have a kid, it changes your perspective immensely, right? I wasn't the husband I was supposed to be when I was a big drinker, but my wife's an adult and we kind of figure it out. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. But when you have a kid, it's just different. Like a little 2-year-old kid looking up at you, and you're like, all right, I can't, looking at her through two bloodshot eyes, and you're like, ah. So that was a big push. But there were also these kind of, drinking, and my business wasn't going as well as it could have been going. It was going fine, but it wasn't good enough for me. And I knew it wasn't good enough for me, to the point where I wasn't enjoying it. I was solving all my problems in my head while I was drinking. And then the next day, the problems were still there. I wasn't solving them. I was just kind of workshopping them in my head, making fake progress, like you're spinning around, running around very fast in circles, but you end up at the same spot. And so all of these things, just one day after another, and nothing was evolving and improving and changing into a way that was going to make me truly satisfied with myself. And I feel, I'm not big on talking about happiness. Everybody likes to talk about, oh, you just got to find joy and happiness and all this kind of stuff. And for me, it's not that. I can appreciate the joy and happiness in little things, and I'm doing that more than I used to. But it's more about satisfaction with myself. And that's, I think, one of the big nuggets that was like this epiphany for me is, part of the reason I was drinking was that I wasn't satisfied with myself, and I didn't know who I was. And it was like this thing on self-love and this thing on, do you care about yourself? And you think about the people that you truly love in this world, and you'll do anything in the world for them. And the question, would you do that for yourself? And the answer for me was always no. And if you listen to my ayahuasca experience and you listen to this, like there are hard lessons on love where I just didn't feel it. It wasn't about love for other people. It was about love for myself. And that's, the ayahuasca thing was so powerful because it was, I think, the first time in my life where I actually felt love for myself. And that's what was missing when you dull it with booze, and it distracts you from all the other things. So, when I think about the reasons why, and then I can tell you how I did it, how I quit. The reasons why it wasn't additive or helpful in any meaningful way, very detrimental. It was affecting my relationships, parent, spouse, and even friends. I'm sure it was like I'm sure I've done embarrassing shit that turned people away. And that's, it's over, but that's fine. I wasn't fixing any of my problems, although I was thinking through it. I was making false progress. It was, it's easier to have 0 drinks than it is to have one. And it's the same with like candy for me, or a cookie. I have one cookie, or I can eat all the cookies. I'm going to eat all the cookies. It triggers something in my brain where I just can't stop. And I realized that. That's why I don't kind of dip in and do those types of things. And one of the things I learned as I've been doing it is I don't actually like booze. It's disgusting. If you don't drink for a month, if you do the Sober October thing, it's just nasty when you go back to it. It's like quitting cigarettes for a month, and then you go back and this is disgusting. But it hooks you and it brings you back, and you just keep doing it, and that's it. The first one, then the second one's fine. So let me tell you the story why I quit. It was October 28, 2018. I remember the day. It was my half birthday. I went out to the bar, and sometimes I'll go to the bar and just do work. And I came home that night, and my wife was in bed, and I woke her up, and I told her that I needed to quit drinking because I'd been thinking about it for a long time. And to her credit, she woke right up, and she was like, "Okay, what do you need? Here to support." And there were lots of tears. And she asked me if I needed AA, and I said no. And she said, "Do you need AA?" And I said no. She goes, "Jim, do you need AA?" And I said no. And I bartered a deal. It was the one deal I could probably make with her. I said, "Let me do it on my own. If I can't do it on my own, then I will go to AA." And she said, "Fine." She went, she found like therapists that I could go interview and do all kinds of, like, she's very, very supportive and helpful and all of that. Um, but I knew I needed to tell someone close to me. And I wasn't going to do it. I could tell strangers, but then, like, it's not going to hold me accountable. I can't hold myself accountable in many different ways. If I was sneaking booze, my wife would know. So that was like this way that, and she would hold me to the fire. So that was my way of doing it, where, like, if I pull that pin, then it's over. Like, you can't do it. And so and since that day, that was it. And there were many times I was pulled in, like, beautiful day, work was done, it was like 3 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I could pop into a bar, nobody would know, blah 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 blah. But it kept me honest, and it one day turned into 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 8 days, 10 days, and I'd read up on other people. There are these communities online, like the "I will not drink with you" or "I will not drink with you today" subreddit on Reddit. It was very helpful. People sharing their stories, and I had a friend who quit, and I went to his, like, 10-year AA celebration where friends could come in. And so that was the one AA meeting I've been to where I wasn't a participant, but I was there. It was towards the end, and it was amazing, the stories that people were sharing, how open and honest they were, and it was a beautiful thing. But I realized as I was going through it is that I did not enjoy the booze. I didn't like the feeling of it. It was more of an escape from kind of difficult whatever things I had to face. And I realized one night that what I was really craving was cigarettes, because I was sitting outside of a bar. I'm like, ooh, I could go in, but my eyes were drawn, like, coaching myself in the moment. What do I really want? I was going to the little ashtray on the table. I'm like, holy shit, I want a cigarette. I don't even want booze. Cigarettes thing is going to be with me forever. It's like always, I crave cigarettes, and I quit years ago. But that's nicotine is a much harder one to kick than the booze. But that's what I've learned, is that I don't enjoy it. It drives stress. Anything unhealthy, like, I've got my little watch, tells me my stress spikes. I eat something unhealthy, it spikes. And it's the same when you take some booze, or if you have a cigarette, or if you take some gummies, or you do whatever. Your stress meter goes up, and the cortisol thing and the stressful body thing, it impacts you in so many different ways. And I got tired of the stress. I got tired of ignoring my responsibilities as an adult, because it was always, oh, I could do it tomorrow. I could do it tomorrow. I could do it tomorrow. And at some point, you just have to kind of grow up and do it. And my father-in-law jokes, on his birthdays, he rounds up or down. So if you're 42, he rounds down. He's like, I'm 40. But if he gets to 46, you round up. 45, you round up. And now he just tells people he's 50. So he's like 40, 50 on the decade for about 10 years, and then he switches over. And so now, like, I'm starting to, like, if I start referring to myself as a 50-year-old, it hits different, where you actually have to be the grown up, and you have to, the people that are supposed to be 50 are supposed to be old and gray and all that kind of stuff. It's not, I got to be a grown up now. It's very difficult. And it's easier to be a grown up when you're putting the right things in your body, you're making the right choices, you're getting your sleep, you're doing those things. And booze doesn't help you do it at all. And what's nice, it's really nice now for me, is sometimes you just get the craving, and they've got these non-alcoholic gin or non-alcoholic beer or something. And what you do when you drink one of those, it's fascinating. I can have one of those, and it's maybe like twice a year. I'll do one of the non-alcoholic, maybe 3 times a year tops. I don't want a second. But if I were drinking real booze, I'd want a second and a third, and then you just put them back, and it's crazy. I have 10, 15 beers in a sitting. Like, that just turns my stomach down. It's bananas that I used to do that. Liters of beer just chugging down into your gullet, and it's just craziness that I would do that. Anyway, here's what my realizations after doing it. One, I feel a lot better. Okay, you can't really imagine it until you do it, and I can recognize days where I just feel so good. Just because it's days when I'm being healthy. Now it's like, because it's been years, whatever. But days where I'm actually making good, healthy decisions, you just feel so good. I imagine I look better physically than if I had continued smoking and drinking. And I get that from, I saw this one person went to, like, their 30-year high school reunion, and one of the things jumped out at me is there are people who have been drinking and smoking since high school. They still do it, and they look like they do. And so I feel like, my diet's got to change a little bit more, but I feel like physically I look better because I'm not doing it. can't talk about the alternative. I don't know. I don't like it. The one thing that I was worried about is what are people going to say? And it's irrelevant because nobody cares. There are, you're like, how do I explain to people that I quit drinking? It's such a big thing. Like, is it a weakness? And somebody offers me a beer. What do I say? Oh my goodness. Blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. And I actually signed up for an Ironman the day after I quit drinking. I went on a long hike and I signed up for an Ironman. And that was supposed to be my excuse on why I quit drinking. They went hand in hand. I was going to do the Ironman and I was quitting drinking. They actually weren't linked. But, and I met some people at the Ironman who say, yeah, the reason I do Ironman is so that I always have an excuse to not go out and drink because, I've got a long bike ride training tomorrow or whatever that is. So there are people who use that, but nobody cared that I gave up drinking. And some people have asked, you still not drinking? And I'm like, yeah, not drinking. And they're like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. And then that's it. Like, it's not, nobody is going to really push you. Some people are kind of like, they make the kind of immature drinking jokes. But they exist. They're around. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares that you're a non-drinker. And you don't need to justify it to anybody. At this point, I feel like it's not even something that needs to be justified. You just say, no, I'm not drinking. I'm taking some time off for it. Personal health, whatever. Fine, right? It doesn't, you don't have to say it's, anything big or whatever. And when if somebody pushes you, say, no, look, I really need to not drink right now. And that's fine. And if somebody pushes you again, then they're not really caring about you. Right? I find that anybody who wanted me to drink with them really, really badly just needed someone to drink with them. And it was about them. It's nothing about you. And I shifted my view. It wasn't about defending myself. It was, I got to figure out some compassion for them because they've got some kind of shit going on. But that's it. I mean, that was the big worry that I had was people might worry and nobody cares. Nobody cares about any of it. But it takes some work and recognizing that nobody has their shit together helps. But it takes deep thoughts on the person you wish to be and the person that you actually are, right? I mean, we put up so many facades and this duplicity is insane. And we're trying to be so many things to so many different people. And it's so easy to just kind of give up and just pour back a bottle of wine and, do whatever. But the work gets easier. And the work is actually easier than dealing with the hangover and everything else. And it's more enjoyable because you get to discover stuff about yourself. And so it's part of your diet. Your diet's just got to change, I think. If you're thinking about this and you've been thinking about it for a while, I feel like your diet just needs to change. And it's like I don't eat tofu. We'll never eat tofu. It's disgusting to me. It's not part of my diet. And this is kind of booze. Booze is not part of my diet. It's disgusting to me now. And it becomes easy over time. There's always a pull. There's always a friend. There's always something. And you've got alternatives now. And that's what's kind of nice. So if you're struggling through Sober October, I'm here to listen. I'm here to help. If you're thinking about something bigger, I'm here to listen. I'm here to help. And if you want to take shots at me for being a non-drinker, go ahead. I'm here to listen. I'm here to help. It's all good. Sober October, good luck with it if you're doing it. Dry January, good luck if you're doing it. And it's, I will say, giving up the booze is one of the best decisions. It's probably my top 10 decisions I've made in my life. And I've made a lot of crazy decisions. So it's got to be in top 5. It's certainly in top 5. Maybe even top 3. I don't know. Like having a kid was one of my top ones, right? You pick the right wife and you're set. Like that's got to be the top one. And then, maybe booze is number 3. So that's that. So have a wonderful week. Sober October. Stay fantastic. Have a wonderful week. Make good choices. I love you all. And we'll go back to the normal kind of topics next week. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.